Hey, what's up, YouTube? This is the Chaotic Dragon back again with top 10 budget decks for the September 2017 format. Alright, this will go from what I believe to be weakest to strongest-ish. Basically, I will be on the weaker side, and once we get to about number 5 and on, these are the ones that I think are most competitively viable. Feel free to disagree with me. This is just a guess, as we won't know how the format will officially shape until it reveals itself. So we won't know if any of these budget decks will even top or not, but I digress. This is just my educated guess. Alright, starting with Monarchs. Alright, the reason why Monarchs are on this list is we have Vanity's Fiend, still to 3, and most of the Monarch decks, that's what they spam out, and they spam the Vanity's Fiend. They still have their field spell Domain, which allows them to say, oh, you have an extra deck? Guess you won't be using that this game. They here are strong against the extra decks, and they don't require one of their own. And they have a plethora of really strong defensive traps and spells, making it really hard to get at their life points, even if you can get a bigger monster out there. Alright, number 9. Heroes. We still have that punk-ass Dark Law. I hate Dark Law, for the record. I really hate but it is a very viable deck. We obviously have Dark Law still at 3, and everything needed to make it at 3. It's searchable and consistent. There's tons of cards to get to the heroes you want to play. And then, of course, it's also splashable. You can throw other engines in there, link monsters, no problem. So, heroes. If you throw some good links, maybe you play the Earth heroes to give you the Earth link. I don't know, that's up to you. There's a million ways to play heroes, and there are, tons of back row to back up the big monsters when you need it. And not to mention, Honesty Neos is... because apparently heroes needed their own Honest. Alright, guys. Number 8. Dino Rabbit. That's right. We're going to bring back some old school Dino Rabbits. Maybe with a few new cards, maybe not. I don't know. I haven't seen how the modern Dino Rabbit deck will be played, but Rescue Rabbit is back to 3. Old school Macro Rabbit or Dino Rabbit was back row heavy as hell. So, good luck getting through that Logia, or whatever link monsters they want to play. If they get out the right setup, they've got you. And especially if you're playing a graveyard deck. And as much as I hate Macros Cosmos, I have to talk about banished decks like Dino Rabbit and like Heroes. These decks are viable. A lot of the bigger decks are looking like they're going to be graveyard oriented, so having anti-meta ready to fight the graveyard seems to be a pretty powerful idea. It also, in theory, could also hurt things like the True Dracos, assuming that they're still here, but they're not on the budget list. Alright, number 7, Paleozoic. Why? New Link support, totally awesome is still a thing, strong disruptors, and the ban list was like, what's a paleo? Never heard of that. Ultimately, that's for enough reasons to play this deck, and it's stupidly cheap. The only thing that will cost you any money is totally awesome, and it has been reprinted, and I don't know what this card is. The Mr. Boy Link Monster. Although I think in Japan it's a rare, I wouldn't be shocked if it's a superhero, which, if it is a super, it will be fairly cheap to get here in the States as well. Number 6, Barrier Stun. Oh, Barrier Stun. Ugh. Anyway, this beast of a deck is extremely viable in any format that will specialize in special summoning. And since there's only 2 viable decks I can think of that do not special summon, this deck will hurt them immensely. The truth of the matter is, Fossil Dyna can be flipped, destroying all the face-up special summon monsters, so if your opponent went first, you just set this thing, we'll let them attack into it, and then we still have card demise at 3, so Yeah, looks like they still got all the draw power. And you can pick any barrier statue you want. I just have water and earth pictured, but you can play any of them depending on what you feel like you're going to go up against. I wouldn't play the light one. That's just my advice. Because Lightsworn and Masterpiece and the new fairy support that's coming out in the future, the light one may not be a good idea to play. But the others, have at it, Hoss. Alright. No special summoning required for this deck. You can basically summon any one of these monsters and sit on it. Then, of course, we have the Moon Mirror Shield, which basically means you're never going to attack over this, even if you have Honest or anything else. You're going to be like, oh, that's cute. I'm still 100 points bigger than you. God, mother. That'll be me. Alright, my favorite deck. Now we're in the upper half. These are the decks I feel are the most viable out of the cheapo decks. Lightsworn. Thank you, ban list, for giving this deck a lot of its power back. Charge to 3. Honest to 3. Indirect support. BLS and Summoner Monk are, well, that says 2, but Summoner is at 3. Ignore that, guys. Sorry. Typo! That's okay. I am a human and therefore not infallible. But BLS is back at 2. Summoner Monk is at 3. This deck has a ton of splashable help in this deck. And, like, we have Clowns, we have Phantom Knights, we have Burning Abyss, we have tons of monsters and cards, and you can mix with the Lightsworns. Zombies, even. There's just a plethora of cards you can mix in with the Lightsworn deck to make it more valuable. The Minerva reprint really supplemented making this deck cheap, comparatively to what it would have been if they still only had Minerva as a prize card. Thankfully, we don't. Vendread. Alright, Preparation of Rites 2. So, the ban list was given the Vendreads a mountain of power, I think. They're going to be, or a mountain of consistency, I should say. They're not extra deck based. The extra deck can be used to boost them, but it's not required. They are graveyard oriented, which is a plus and a minus. I guess it will just depend on what they're up against. But getting rid of the Slayer might be difficult without a Kaiju. Tons of zombie support and ritual support, so you can really pick whatever path you want to take. And then, of course, it's based on Spawn, so clearly it must be good. I'm just kidding. I have no idea. That last part's a joke. Number 3, Dinosaurs, Pure. Now, the reason why I say that this deck is not dead. Alright, 1, Oviraptor, Lost World, Terraforming, Fossil Dig, all still at 3. Those are big, big things. What I think that this deck will do for the future is it will focus more on Giant Rex and Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. Basically, what you'll be doing is you'll probably be relying on your Gold Sarcophagus and your Giant Rex to make your Exceeds plays like you used to, or your Link plays like you used to. We probably won't see True King stuff in here anymore, more than likely, unless they want to start playing more water dinosaurs, perhaps, since Lithogasm was destroyed, or on the ban list, he was severely wrecked, so the water one may be the only one that is left that might be viable. But this deck going forward has plenty of room to experiment. I have seen versions of this deck that have tried things like Cosmos and Fire Kings. Feel free to experiment. There's tons of cards that destroy monsters and other cards in the hand. So there's still room to mess around and figure out how to make this deck work again. The Tyranno is, like I said, is still at 3, and I feel like in the future most decks will just center around him because the Oviraptor can search him out. It's not that hard to fill the graveyard with dinosaurs, even with the loss of Miscellaneousaurus being at 3 and now being at 1, and the loss of Lithogasm being from 3 to 0. So we'll just have to wait and see how this deck evolves. Number 2, Zombies, generic. One, splashable in other decks, and other cards are splashable. So, for example, you could splash in a small Lightsworn engine to help you mill those zombies to the graveyard. Speaking of that, they are heavily graveyard powered. They don't exactly know how to stay dead, hence why being zombies. They have 0 hits on the ban list. Mizuki, Gozuki, all the Shinui cards are still at 3. Samurai Skull is like the mathematician / Armageddon Knight of the zombie deck. You just summon this bad boy, get a free zombie to the graveyard, which you will probably use to put up your plays, use your synchro summons, your links, whatever you're going to be doing. Then we have a plethora of Shinui support, tons of defensive trap. I believe they have 2, excuse me, not tons, but they have 2 very powerful defensive trap cards. I think their continuous one, I believe, can help you slow down on the damage, plus banishing the Shiranuis, which they get extra effects off of that. And then on top of that, they have their own Icarus attack, so they don't even need things like, necessarily will need things like Dark Hole, which is now at 1, or things like Twin Twister to get rid of back row. Alright, now, for the number 1 deck that I think is going to be the most powerful of the budget decks, ABC. That's right. Boom! ABC. This deck is very combo heavy, so the idea here is that you can draw basically anything and then combo into your pieces that you need to get to, like Deco Talker, ABC Dragon, and Tsukiyomi, and whatever else you want to play in your extra deck. It's link viable, clearly. Like I just said, they can summon Deco Talker, and more than one, if need be. So if you get rid of one, they'll just summon another one. The ABC Buster Dragon is still just as powerful as it's ever been, so good luck getting rid of that thing. Also, the ability to split back into the 3 monsters that make it also could allow Deco Talker to become much more, or much bigger in the attack department. This deck is consistent. It rarely dead draws. It has powerful disruption in that the back row it plays can vary. So, depending on what you're playing, this thing can play to almost any kind of back row kind of cards it wants. Plus, the ABC Buster Dragon is almost like Trident when it was legal. It's an either player turn effect. And then there's the last piece that is the reason why I believe this deck is going to be so powerful among the budget decks. Its variance. Its ability to have secondary strategies, and then they vary. So it's not really easy to pick. Basically to pick what kind of cards you want to side against it, because whatever variant they're playing, the secondary strategy could probably barrel right through it, and then everything else is just, or you could just pick something. This thing is so splashable. You can pick it among just any kind of machine support, and this deck can use it. Also, light support. They even have their own Monster Reborn right here in Magnet Reverse, which is also able to be used on the opponent's turn. So, there you go, guys. There you go. That's our top 10 budget decks for the 2017 format. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Is there any cheap, viable decks for this format that you think I missed? Leave that in the comments below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the Chaotic Dragon. And I'm out!